Hey guys, I'm really happy to see you today, and I'm glad you've joined me to practice some moves to love your low back. So just a couple things about this practice. Some of these poses will be more effective for you than others. There are a lot of different things that people can have going on with their low back. So the ones that really work well for you, do more of that. The ones that not so much, then let those go. That's totally fine. Remember, the ones that you need most are the ones you love and the ones that you would really love to avoid. The ones that you're like, I don't know what's going on there, then those are not so useful. If you have osteoporosis or osteopenia, you're going to want to make sure you keep your spine nice and long the whole time, so avoid the rounding and the huge back bends. Keep it really gentle for yourself. And if you are experiencing acute back pain, this may not be the right practice for the moment. This is a great practice, though, to help prevent it and to help ease minor back pain. So let's get started, huh? We're going to start in a comfortable seated position, whatever that looks like for you today. Nice long spine. I think I'm going to sit on my block because that feels like it would feel a lot more comfortable. The higher your hips are compared to your knees, usually the more comfortable your seated position. If you don't have a block handy, go get one now because you're going to need it later. Nice long spine, nice deep breaths. We're going to begin with the Krama Pranayama. And in this version, we're really going to use our transverse abdominals. Those are the abdominals that go all the way around to the spine. So you want to think about pulling your outer waist in towards your belly button here, and that'll help activate your transverse abdominals. So every time we exhale, we're going to do that, pulling the outer waist in. Every time we inhale, we're going to breathe into the rib cage, and then relax the belly as we breathe into the belly. Inhale into the rib cage, then the relaxing belly. Every exhale, outer waist in towards your belly button. Use your transverse abdominals to help move your breath up and down. Now just this breathing technique, just like this, great way to strengthen your abdominals. Working between relaxing the abdominals and contracting the abdominals. Our abdominals are so helpful in keeping our low back happy. So if you can keep this breathing technique going through the remainder of class, awesome. If you can't, just come back to it when you remember. No big deal. We're going to start on all fours with some Chakravakasana. So this is going to be a subtle movement here. And I'd like you to really pay attention to how your spine and your pelvis move together. So as we inhale into the rib cage, then the belly, we're going to take the chest forward as we reach the tail back. As we exhale, we're going to tuck the tail a little bit, rounding the low back and coming down to the forearms. Inhaling to all fours, chest forward, tail back. Exhaling, rounding the low back a little, dropping to the forearms. Moving with your breath, let it help you out here. We're going to take just one more time. So we're beginning to tune in here and work on these more subtle movements. Our next pose is a seated pose. So if you'd like to sit on something again, go right ahead. You're going to extend one leg and bend the other knee. Opposite hand around that bent knee, getting nice and tall. We're going to try to move our pelvis and sacrum as one. So that's the subtle movement. The twist in Matsyendrasana is our bigger movement. So as you exhale, take your right hip back and twist towards that bent knee. As you inhale, let's unwind that, drawing the hip forward. Beginning each twist with your hips, seeing if you can move the pelvis and your sacrum, that triangle at the base of your spine, as one unit. Last time. When you come back to center, switch your legs. Opposite hand to that bent knee, get nice and tall. And as you exhale, pull that left hip back this time to move into your twist. As you inhale, move the hip forward. Moving with your breath, pelvis and sacrum, moving as one unit here. Less strain for those SI joints. Last time. When you come back to center, bring yourself all the way down onto your belly. You're going to find your hip points, those bony protrusions in the front of your pelvis, and press them down into your mat. I want to try to keep the weight even there as we slowly lift one leg and lower it. Lift the other leg and lower it. What often happens here is a shift as we lift and lower the legs. We want to keep the weight even on both sides. Part of this too is reducing the tilt of your pelvis. So press your pubic bone down as well. The abdominals, one of their main roles is to keep your pelvis stable. That's what they're doing for you right here. After that last time you've lowered the second leg, go ahead and bring yourself all the way up to standing. So we're going to take our left foot forward and our right foot back. We're going to take our hands to our low back so that we can tell where our hips are in space. Grounding both heels, we're going to try to keep the hips level and square. So by hips, I mean the top of your pelvis here. And as you exhale, fold about halfway down. As you inhale, use your legs to bring yourself back up. So we're doing a couple things here. We're trying to remind the body that the legs are huge and strong, and they can do the work here. Your back does not need to be what lifts you up. One more time. And then we're going to swivel our feet all the way around. We're going to do the same thing on the other side, keeping the hips as level and square as you can. So we're teaching the body to use the legs. We're also teaching the body to keep the low back as neutral as possible here. We keep the asymmetry in the legs rather than in the back here, and it makes the back much happier. Less strain is always a good thing. Let's do one more on this side. When you come all the way up, go ahead and swivel your feet all the way to the other side. Take your hands right to the top of your pelvis, right on the side, so you can feel what's happening there. And we're going to do a little Virabhadrasana. So as we inhale, this time we're going to bend the front knee so it's right over the ankle and hinge at the hips to put the chest right over the knee. And then as we exhale, we're going to come all the way back up. Keeping the hips level and square here, the pelvis level and square. But also seeing if you can move the pelvis and the sacrum as one unit here. Remember your sacrum being part of your spine. One more time. Then swivel your feet all the way around. We're going to do the same thing on this side. Squaring and leveling that pelvis. Inhaling, lining up ankle, knee, and chest. Exhaling, use your transverse abdominals to help the breath out as you come back up. One more time. And then we're going to come to stand with both feet right under your hips. So feet hip width apart, insides relatively parallel, and we're going to work Samasthiti to Uttanasana. So we're going to be going into a forward fold here. So again, hands on the low back, or you can try taking your hands to your hip points for a different reference point here. And keeping the hips and the pelvis level and square as you fold. As you exhale, folding forward just as far as it feels right for you. As you inhale, bend your knees, press into your feet to come all the way up. Exhaling, hips level and square. Inhaling, using those legs to press you all the way up. No strain for the low back here, even as we stretch our hamstrings a little bit on the way down. One more time. This is a subtle way to build strength in your low back without even realizing it. So if you're feeling this in your low back, bend your knees more as you come up. We're going to move from that all the way down to the floor. Right onto your back. And we're going to come into a variation of Jathara Parvriti. So extend your left leg out long and take your right leg up towards the sky. If you shift your hips first over to the right, it will be less strain for your low back. So one thing that we're going to try to do while we're down here on our back is use our transverse abdominals to stabilize here. So remember, outer waist in towards the belly button. And we're going to keep a little bit of that even when we inhale. So as you next exhale, use your transverse abdominals to help you exhale. Take your leg across into a twist. As you inhale, keep a little bit of that tension in the transverse as you come back up. So we exhale to twist and inhale up. 2 more times. Focusing in on making sure that you've got some engagement there in your transverse. The next time you come up, bring your leg down, shift your hips if you need to, and we'll try the other leg. So left leg rises, shift the hips if you'd like. As you exhale, transverse, engaging fully. As you inhale, keeping just a little bit of that engagement as you breathe in to bring the leg up. We're going to do this 2 more times. When you next make it all the way up, release your leg down, shift your hips back to neutral, and then roll all the way onto your belly. We're going to work a little bit with Bhujangasana, Cobra pose, and using that same idea with engaging our transverse abdominals, fully on the exhale and keeping just a little bit of that on the inhale. So go ahead and exhale. Feel your transverse engaged as you pull the outer waist in. As you inhale, keep a little of that as you take your chest forward and up. And as you exhale, come back down. Inhaling, keeping a little bit of engagement so that the transverse helps protect the low back. Exhaling, belly in to come down. Now as we engage our transverse, it also helps fire little tiny muscles in our spine that make our back bend a little easier. Last time. And when you come all the way down this time, go ahead and make your way onto your back again. We're going to do a little extra strengthening here. So your transverse are going to come into this again. You're going to stretch your legs out and see, where's my low back in relationship to the floor? We want to keep that same position of the low back compared to the floor. We're going to exhale the right knee towards the chest. Inhale the leg towards the sky, and then exhale the leg almost to the floor. Inhale the leg back up, and exhale the knee towards the chest. Inhale the leg out long on your mat. Now remember, as we keep our low back in this position, that means that we're not sending one side closer to the floor than the other either. So see if you can find that support. Exhaling knee towards chest, left knee this time. Inhaling the leg up. Exhaling the leg almost to the floor beside the other. Inhaling it back up. Exhaling the knee towards the chest. And then we'll extend that leg out long. Let's try that with both sides. So this will be a symmetrical stabilization of the pelvis instead of asymmetrical. Exhaling, knees towards chest. Keep that little bend in the low back. Inhale the legs up. Exhale the legs almost to the floor. Woo! Inhale back up. And exhale the knees towards the chest. Release your feet down. Repeat as many times as you'd like, but usually one is enough to go, wow! So from here, we're going to come all the way up to standing, and we're going to work a little bit with our QLs. So those are those little tiny muscles on either side of your spine here. And we're going to take our arms overhead, feet hip-width apart, to come into Ardha Chandrasana, half moon pose. So drop your shoulders. And as you exhale, contract your QL on the left, lengthen on the right. As you inhale, come back to center. As you exhale, contract the QL on the right, lengthen the left. Inhale to center. You can also do this with your hands right over your QLs on your low back, right on either side of your spine. And that'll help you tell if you're engaging, if you're stretching. And do 2 more times to each side. And when you make it to center next, relax your arms and let's come all the way back down to our back. So we're going to lay all the way down. We're going to shift both hips over to the left and draw the knees towards the chest. Arms out wide. And engaging again through your transverse abdominals and seeing if you can keep both sides of your waist equally long here. Take your knees over to one side. And let's do this more as a resting pose. So if your knees don't come all the way down, use your hand or a block to release them down. You want that back shoulder to be relaxed. Lengthen your low back every time you inhale. Every time you exhale, relax a little bit. But what we're trying to do here is make sure that the spine, the lumbar spine, isn't bending at all, that it's only twisting. We're going to do this one more time. And then come all the way up, release your feet down, shift the hips over to the other side. Knees towards chest, and take the knees all the way down. Every time you inhale, lengthening that lumbar spine. Every time you exhale, relaxing a little bit. Endeavoring to keep the natural curves of your waist here, and to keep the lumbar spine equally long on both sides. So in essence, this begins to stack your hips a little bit. Coming all the way back to center, release your legs down, shift your hips to neutral. Notice how your low back feels. In those reclining twists, oftentimes we end up with a bend in our lumbar spine, our low back. Then we're bending and twisting at the same time, which is more strain than just doing one action. We're going to go a little bit deeper to find our psoas next. So grab your block, take it underneath your sacrum. Make sure it's in a comfortable place for your low back and begin to extend your legs out straight. Go just as far as it feels good to you. You should feel a little stretch happening in the lower belly and maybe into the front of the hips. If you feel pain in your low back, it means that you shouldn't straighten your legs all the way. So just bend the knees as much as you need to. That's usually your psoas, that deep hip flexor, pulling on your low back. We're just going to take a few breaths here. This is a pose that it is really good to spend a long time in, letting it passively open and release. I'm going to spend a little less time than I'd like to here in this practice, just in the interest of keeping things a little bit shorter. So we're going to work a little bit with internal and external rotation here, because remember, if you have a tight butt, you have a tight low back. So go ahead and just see how it feels to roll your feet in. What does that change for you? Roll the feet out. How is that different? bring our soles to the floor, lift up into our usual bridge pose. So hips nice and high, shoulders tucking. And we're going to see if we can create a little internal rotation, as if we're going to turn our toes in, but we're not going to move our knees. Feet stay where they are, nice and strong. Little internal rotation there in the inner thighs. See if you can relax your bottom just a little bit. Stretching those hip rotators slightly. Remove your block. And come all the way down onto your back. And then come onto all fours. One more big pose, and I'd like you to bring into this pose everything we've talked about today. So we're going to take the right knee forward between the hands for Kapotasana, pigeon pose. Right up onto your fingertips here. You can check are my hips level and square here. And then as you exhale, using your transverse abdominals, fold forward. As you inhale, lift all the way up. Now try to get a little movement into the pelvis here, bringing the sacrum along for the ride. So it's the movement of your pelvis that powers the movement of your spine. One more time, up and down. Then we'll bring our hands down, slide that front leg back, bring your left leg forward. Check again that you're relatively level and square for less strain in the low back. And as you exhale, fold. As you inhale, come all the way back up. Experimenting a little bit here with a little internal rotation, even though those front hip rotators are already stretching. One more time. Use both QLs equally. And then slide that leg all the way back and come down onto your back. Knees bend towards your chest, hands on your knees, arms are straight. We're going to exhale to bend the elbows rather. Inhale to straighten. And experiment here with little micro movements based on what you learned today about your body. Maybe you lift your low back a little bit here. Maybe you use your psoas, that deep hip flexor, to draw your thighs closer to your belly. Maybe you think about how you can move your pelvis and sacrum as one here as you move your legs. One more time. And then we're ready for the best pose ever, Shavasana. Extending your legs or placing whatever support you like under them. Arms relaxed. Letting go of control of the breath and the body. Inviting more relaxation into your belly and your low back. Into your hips and thighs. Letting that relaxation radiate out to all the parts of your body. And however long you think you should stay here, I'm going to invite you to stay here longer than that. Because the longer that you stay here, the more benefit you will find. So thank you for joining me. Have the most lovely Shavasana. Namaste. Jai Bhagwan. And may you have a happy low back.